Welcome to Arthurian April Day 13, and hello from Switzerland from me. Very, very jet lagged. But I thought I would talk about something that's relatively easy for me to converse about. My favorite knight of all time, Sir Gawain, and in particular, the 2021 film, The Green Knight. Before I jump in to The Green Knight, a couple of things to know about Gawain. We're going to have a whole episode on him later, but working up to it. He is the nephew of Arthur. I've talked about avuncular relationships before. Same thing here. Arthur and Gawain's relationship is one of the most important in the entire Arthurian canon, and it really isn't until the French start retelling the story that changes, but the character never really goes away. Gawain is there, and he is pervasive. The character of Sir Gawain is all over the place. It starts off, as mentioned, as the favored nephew of King Arthur. He's a hero. He's like a superhero. He gets super strong during the noonday sun, has a sword named Galantine, has a horse named Gringolet. Super cool stuff. By the time we get to Mallory, that's changed a lot. The French influence with Lancelot has very much changed, and Gawain, as well as his brothers, sort of become bullies, basically. They're pretty terrible to just about everybody. And then that comes around again, and many other tales change it completely. But this made me think immediately of how David Lowery approaches Gawain in The Green Knight. So if you missed The Green Knight, you were not alone. It came out right in the middle of the pandemic, and it was one of the first films that I saw in the theater around that time. And I was very emotional. First of all, it is a sort of everyman telling of the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight poem. If you're not familiar with that, you've probably seen allusions to it. It starts at Christmas. This big Green Knight comes to the round table and basically says, he challenges a knight, and essentially Gawain takes up the challenge and cuts off the head, but it doesn't kill the Green Knight. And then he tells him that he needs to come back in a year to the Green Chapel where he lives, because Green Knights live in Green Chapels, of course. And in this film anyway, as well as many other retellings, he'll have his head chopped off. So poor Gawain has a year to do what he may before that. The original Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is written in a Northwest Midlands dialect, and we call the poet of this the Gawain poet or the Pearl poet because there's other poems at that time that are similar. But the big important part about this is that you need to know Gawain cuts off the head of Guy. Guy tells him to come back and have his head cut off in a year. What Lowery could have done was turn this into a character-driven, personality-driven movie, but he didn't. In many ways, Gawain is an everyman, and the everyman concept is very popular in medieval lore of this sort of almost blank slate of a character. He starts off in the film at a brothel. His mom gets involved, who's in this case Morgan Le Fay. In my books, it's Anna Pendragon. And she kind of helps to begin, we think, the way that the movie portrays it, sort of this challenge with the Green Knight, which will cause him to have sort of this epic journey of self-reflection. And y'all, this is a weird movie, but if you've been paying attention to Arthurian April, you'll remember that all of Arthuriana is weird. Remember, I was just talking about the prose Tristan, and a lot of the people who read this as, their scholarly work, one of the things that is brought up again and again is that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You can't really put it together. Things are just happening out of nowhere. Things are not explained. And yet, at the time, that was one of the most popular texts of the era. I've written extensively about the costumes in this film because the use of color is so fascinating, but so are the special effects. The movie makers were really, really inspired by films of the 80s, and so they didn't want to over CGify everything. So while there is some computer generated special effects, there are a ton of practical effects, and this leaning on real things, real places, real textures really gives a remarkable feeling to it. King Arthur and Guinevere are there, but they're literally just referred to as the king and the queen. It's all very creepy. You also get, what I love is the sense that this is Camelot in decline. So often we hear these stories of the golden Camelot where everything is perfect. Fun fact, it was never perfect. But one of the compelling things I find in Arthuriana is that it is falling apart. But despite that it is falling apart, amazing things continue to happen. And that's just so cool. It's such a cool commentary on human existence. Like, you know, this is going to end really badly for everybody, but we're still searching for grails. We're still saving castles. We're still slaying dragons. We're still doing all of that stuff. In the film Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Sir Gawain is definitely has kind of like a prolonged, almost childhood, which, you know, for royalty of that time, not super surprising. His journey is about discovering who he is and whether or not he's going to be an honorable, chivalric, loyal person, if he's going to be a man of his word. I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's definitely the kind of film you have to sit through to enjoy. And if you like challenging films, and if you like films that are not easily put on a platter for you, that's great. What I love more than any other film when it comes to this movie, because it's so different, is that it is a conversation with the texts. It is literally pulling so many of the vibes from the Middle Ages and the original poetry, but then spinning it with its own thing, having characters that are not purely white, using Latin American historical fashion in the inspiration for some of the clothing, but yet is distinctly and obviously medieval because, hey, surprise, surprise, the medieval world was way more diverse, way more colorful, way more interesting than we've been led to believe. Also, the movie posters, the marketing for this, you'll notice that the secondary font here is totally the one they used in King Arthur Legend of the Sword, which I find is hilarious. But the graphic design, the costume design, the bold colors, all of it is just so, so incredible. Do I have a little bit of a crush on Dev Patel? Absolutely. Is this a movie for children? Absolutely not. There are some very adult themes in it. But if you read medieval literature, you'll know that that's not unusual. So if you've seen The Green Knight, I would love to hear from you about how you liked it or didn't like it. And if you haven't seen it, I would love to hear your thoughts.